Hello friends, my name is Michael Stappa, and today I'd like to give you a video about sales calls best practices. Specifically, this one is focused on pharmaceutical and medical device. And whether you're watching this video because you're trying to learn more about Mike Stappa specifically, or you genuinely want these tips to improve that you can use in your own sales career, the video will accomplish both of those tasks. So let's get started. So in terms of kind of the primary purpose of the video, like I said, what I want to do is I want to give you an example of a typical sales call, a real-world sales call, of the way I conduct my own calls in pharmaceutical and medical device world. But also, if you're considering getting into the industry, this is a great example of what an interaction is like between a representative and a doctor. Or if you're already in the industry and you just want to add additional skills, kind of to your sales tool bag, maybe some of the things I say today could be things that you could use. And on that same regard, I'm always learning myself. So if you watch this video and you have things that you'd like to share with me, by all means, please send them my way so that I can continue to add to my own repertoire. Now, before we get started, I want to just talk about the method that I'm going to use. It's called PPAF, which stands for an acronym for Purpose, Proof, Action, and Follow-up. Now, I've got another video specifically about the PPAF method of call planning. If you're interested in that, I encourage you to watch that video too. But that's the method I'm going to use throughout this particular sales call. And just in case you don't know me, just to give you a little background, I'm not going to read this entire slide, but you can see I've been in sales for over 25 years. I have been blessed to be able to, exceed my quota year after year after year. I'm on a nice little run right now. I don't consider myself a sales guru, but, I do like to share what I know. That's how I learned, and I like to share it with you. And I do live and breathe this stuff every day. I've been involved in customer interactions for over 25 years, and what I'm showing you today, this is what I do every day, and the people that work with me can validate that for you. So again, there's the method that we talked about, the PPAF method, and you'll see this throughout the sales call. So just to give you an example, so if the step one is setting up the purpose for the visit. So if I'm going to be talking to a doctor, for example, I might say something like this. Hey doc, the reason I'm here today is I want to discuss with you how you can use product X to help patient Y with condition Z. Is this something you're interested in? So let's break down that discussion right there. Now, obviously, this is kind of a watered-down version. We're not talking about an actual product here. I mean, because there are certain compliance regulations we've got to stay with. We're talking in generic terms right here. But let's focus on what we can talk about, and that is this is an example of an opening that I use all the time. The reason I use it is because it provides a clear goal. We want to talk about product X for certain patients, not the actual patient names, but just in general, these patients that have this condition Z, for example. And that's the roadmap for the call. So I know what the call is about, and the doctor knows what the call is about. And just kind of as a little bit of a pro tip, I'm going to give you like these real world examples throughout the video. I like to set this up before the call even occurs. So maybe I talked about this as the end of my last call, during the follow-up stage of my last call, or maybe it was over email. If your company allows you to send emails, maybe prior to this call, you send an email, hey doc, can we talk about this when I meet with you on Tuesday or something like that? And then when you get in, you can say, hey, remember, we talked about this on the last call. I'm kind of bringing that process forward. Or if remember, hey, we talked over email, we were going to talk about this patient type. So that's kind of like a little bit of a tip right there. And the other piece I want to talk about that's very important, and that is the are you interested portion at the end. That's kind of I don't want to say it's a controversial thing, but I know a lot of people shy away from asking a question like this, specifically asking, are you interested in this topic? And I believe that's critical to ask this question. So you might say, well, Mike, what if they say no, they're not interested? Well, I need to know that. And you as a sales representative need to know that too. Because if you engage in a discussion where the doctor is actually not interested in your discussion, you're going to waste your time and their time, and you're going to think they're ready to buy from you, when in reality they have a lot of objections that you have not uncovered yet. So by asking the are you interested question, it does a couple things. One, if they're not interested, then you can find out what the problem is so that you can tackle that objection first, because you're not ready to go to the buying stage yet, right? But if they are interested, it provides a form of a trial close, right? They said they're interested in this. If you can provide evidence that backs up the recommendation that you're going to make, then by the time you get to the actual close later, they've already said yes. So it's a beautiful thing. Make sure that you don't skip the are you interested portion of the question. Got it? All right, step two, the proof, right? So this is the evidence stage. I'm talking about a patient that has this condition Z. Obviously, I'm going to make a recommendation that they use product X, but I've got to back that up with evidence, right? Because I'm not a doctor. Me just going in there and telling them to use the product without any evidence is not going to do anything. So I might say something like this. So again, this is, a generic way to say it. So, hey, did you see that article by Bob Evans in the March issue of the New England Journal of Medicine? Dr. Evans, he conducted a trial with patients that had condition Z, and he found that patients who used product X were able to reduce condition Z by 35%. What's your opinion of that research? So again, watered down version, right? But it's kind of an example of how you could have a discussion starter. And the proof source could be a clinical that you use, like a white paper. It could be a visual aid. It could be your mobile device, whatever the case may be, right? You're going to have something that's going to provide evidence to back up the recommendation that you're going to make in your close stage. Now, I want to touch on this thing called be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. When I was early in my career, I read a book that was something titled similar to this. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like this here. But the concept is this. In pharmaceutical and medical device sales, often we're meeting with providers, whether that's doctors, nurse practitioners, respiratory therapists, nurses, whatever the case may be. These people are busy treating patients. If they've got time to meet with you, they don't have a lot of time, right? So you got to maximize that time that you have. You've got to be brief with them, but you got to be brilliant, and then you got to be gone, right? So use the time that you have to get that job done. And so why I bring it up here with the proof stage is because what I found over the year, and myself included, when you're early on in your career, the proof stage is the hardest piece to be confident with. You got a lot of things in your job that you're responsible for. And knowing the clinical evidence when you don't have a medical background, it can be very difficult. So some people shy away from the proof stage. I'm telling you, don't do that, because if you do that, and I've been there, right? If you try to, not know as much as you should know, you're not going to be confident when you present that proof, and you're going to know it, and the doctor's going to know it, and the recommendation that you make is not going to be believable. So spend the time getting to know the proof source that you're using. I don't have a medical background. I have a financial background, so it took me a while to learn the medical side of things when I got into this industry in the middle 2000s, right? I spent a lot of time and effort to learn the medical side of the business, and I became, I like to think, a product knowledge expert. And I think it's reasonable for everybody to have that goal, even if you don't have a medical background. I have since given many, many presentations where when I'm done with the presentation, people will ask, wow, what is your medical background? And I don't bring that up to toot my own horn, only just to show you that it is possible to be a subject matter expert in your product. And what I say to that when people ask me that is I kind of just laugh it off, right? Hey, I might be an expert in one thing, but you're the expert in many things. And I'm only here to support you with the little piece that I know of the pie that can help you in your decision making. Nobody expects you to be an expert in everything, right? I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be a doctor, right? But I can be an expert in the proof sources that I bring, and I can be an expert in my product, and that's how I can provide value to the customers that I serve, right? So in terms of the proof source that you're choosing, we got to make sure that it's clearly related to the purpose of the visit. So I said in that purpose, hey, I'm coming in to talk about patients that have condition Z. So my proof source has to support this theory, right, that the people who use product X for condition Z get better, right? And now I'm going to verbalize that for the customer, and I'm going to see if the customer buys into that evidence, right? If they do buy into the evidence, then that's going to make the close easier. If they don't buy into the evidence, then I need to know what their objections are, right? In addition, I'm also introducing a concept here called the key opinion leader strategy. What I like to say is, hey, doc, don't take my word for it that you should use, product X for condition Z. This is what Bob Evans says, and Bob Evans is a key opinion leader nationally throughout for this product. And if this doctor knows Bob Evans personally, all the better, right? Because now we're providing validation from a proof source and someone that they know. Let's take this a little bit forward, a little bit more here with some additional stuff. I talked about the stumbling blocks already. That's, taking the time to know your material, and the fact that you can have a reasonable goal to be an expert in the things that you are presenting. Now, does that mean you have to know everything there is to know about this trial from a medical standpoint? That's probably unrealistic if you don't have a medical background. But your company probably has a medical science team that if they ask questions that go beyond the label, or they ask questions that you don't know, don't make it up. Just get them hooked up with the medical science person from your company who can answer those questions, right? Also, I think this is very important. When you are presenting a piece of clinical information, it should be a dialogue, right? We're not trying to present a piece of clinical information, and that we can go kind of coast to coast, page to page, all the way through, right? We want to have a dialogue during that discussion. So maybe throughout the presentation, that maybe it's a 5-minute presentation, right? But you might say something like, when you talk about how the research was set up, hey, doc, what do you think about how the research was set up? Or are the patients in this trial similar to yours? Why or why not? Or are you using product X in the same way that Dr. Evans is using? Or when you get to the results, hey, are you getting the same results as Dr. Evans is with product X with patients that have condition Z, or are you getting something different, right? That's important to have that Q&A because, like I said, that's going to help you uncover those hidden objections. And those objections are what you need to know before you can get to the close. All right, speaking of the close, this is step 3, right? Purpose, proof, action. This is the action close. So you might say something like this. So, doc, you've seen how Dr. Evans is using product X to treat his patients with condition Z. You said you'd love to get similar results for your patients too. So, if that's true, then is it reasonable for me to ask you to use product X for your patients that have condition Z, right? Again, it's a watered down close, but I use a version of that all the time, and I can tell you it worked, particularly if you followed that pathway from purpose, proof, to action, right? What I love about this close is a few things. It's specific, it's easy to understand, and it's reasonable, right? I'm not asking my doctor to use product X for every patient under the sun. No, I'm asking him to use it for patients that have condition Z, and it's based on evidence that backs that up, right? That is a reasonable and easy to understand request to make, and when you use a request like that, you're going to increase your percentage of getting a yes. This specificity, this works, right? It's not rocket science. It's, I didn't make this up, and I'm just telling you, it does work. What I love about this action, like I said, is the action tracks back to the proof, which tracks back to the purpose, and that's what makes it reasonable. So a few things, kind of continue this forward right here, variations. So especially this works great if you're in the hospital, right, and it's a critical care unit or something. Hey, so doc, do you have any patients right now that have condition Z? If you have some in the unit right now, maybe can we try product X with them and let's have you monitor the results? That works great. Okay, maybe it's an outpatient setting here. What's the next time you're going to see a patient with condition Z? Whatever the case may be, right? Maybe a week or something from now. So hey, when they come in, are you willing to try product X with them? Right? Here's another good one. Let's do this. How about the next time you get a patient with condition Z, you try product X, right? Then on my next visit, we can discuss your results and see if you're getting the same success and the same outcomes that Dr. Evans. Is that reasonable? Here's another one. Okay, and this I like to use this one for all of them, right? So listen. Keep in mind, especially if this is a new person using your product, this is very important. Look, I'm here to set you up for success, right? So if you got questions about the use of the product, both myself and my medical team and my training team, we're here to help you and your staff. So you're never going to be alone in this process. We want you to be confident that if you're going to use this product and you use it in the same manner that it's recommended by the package insert and by the evidence, that you're going to have success, and we'll help set you up for that success. Okay. Now let's take it to the next level. All right, I love this one here. So, hey doc, what do you think about this one? How about you trial product X on your next few patients with condition Z, and we'll monitor the results together, right? Meanwhile, I'll reach out to Dr. Evans and I'll see if he has any availability to meet with us live. And if this is something you're interested in, I can work with your group admin. We'll set up like an interactive forum discussion. We can kind of have a night out together. We can do one of my company's, on-label case study slide deck presentations, and then we can all have a good discussion with Dr. Evans. Would that be of value to you and the rest of your team? See, what I love about that approach is now I'm continuing that key opinion leader sales tactic, right? And I'm also providing further encouragement and support for the customer to proceed down the path that we all want to get to, right? That is true value add right there. And I've used that for years. It is the most successful strategy that I use. I encourage you to try it. So what's the final thing? Let's start bringing this home here, right? This is the follow-up. Purpose, proof, action, follow-up. Looks something like this. Okay, so we're closing up the call here now, right? Okay, doc, you said you're going to give product X a trial for your next few patients with condition Z, right? You said you think you'll have maybe 3 to 5 patients that you can try this approach on in the next couple weeks. So how about I stop back in 2 weeks and we see how it goes, right? What's a good time for our next meeting? Let's look at the calendar here. Would the 14th at 7 a.m. be good? I think that's before you have your first patient, right? If not, how about the 16th at 4 o'clock after you finish your hospital rounds, right? Whatever, you can make that fit however you need to. But the point is, this is the strategy for long-term success. Anybody can close a sale, right? But if you're going to have long-term success, the people that have been in sales for a long time are going to tell you it is that long-term follow-up, that call continuum that helps you to have success over time. And so we don't just want one sale, we want a string of sales. We don't just want one use of the product, we want that product to be continually used because the doctor's having great success with it. And that's where the follow-up comes into play. So let's take this to the next level. So if I have action items I need to follow up on, I can't drop the ball. I got to complete those actions. And if I have a customer, particularly a new customer that starts to use my product, I want to make sure that they are successful. I want them to be a repeat buyer. I want them to love the product so much that they tell their friends, right? Because it's a much easier path to more sales by having current customers use more of the product than it is to always try to develop new customers. I'm not saying you're not chasing new customers, certainly you are, but once you got a customer using the product, expand their usage if it's appropriate, if they have the patients that need it. It's much easier to do. And hey, for all you know, this person that you're developing now as a new customer, maybe they're going to be your next key opinion leader. Maybe they're the next Bob Evans, right? Maybe they're the next researcher. Or maybe they're going to be a personal friend to you that you do stuff with outside of work that's not even related to work, right? So all those things are possible, right? Because you're following up with the customer, and that's how business is done. So let's just summarize here, right? The sales call method that I use is called PPAF. If you want to know more about it, I've got a longer video about that in detail. I also have a printable that you can use so that you can have it laid out for you. You can get that from my website, thathelpfuldad.com. But the point is, if you use this method consistently, you're going to be able to watch the quality of your sales interactions go up. You're going to build better relationships with your customers, and you're also going to get more consistent results over time. So that's the end of the video. I appreciate you watching. Like I said, hopefully these tips are helpful. If you have tips that you can share with me, I would love to know them. If you want to know more, check me out on LinkedIn or go to my website, thathelpfuldad.com. Thank you for watching and have a great day.